You're listening to the Late Night Football Show with your host, Rohit Singh. That's me. On this show, we talk about some of the most seriously silly topics from the world of football for your entertainment and enjoyment. Please remember that the show is BYOL. Bring your own laughs, since we don't have the budget for a studio audience. Happy listening. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Late Night Football. Thank you to everyone who watched our first double-figure episode last week, and to those who listened to me and rewatched the Sliv episode from a few weeks ago as well. Additional views are always welcome, and I'm glad to provide all of you with much-needed therapy in these dark times. Anyway, before we get on to today's episode, I did want to address something. If you watched my episode on VAR controversy from a couple of weeks ago, I did say that those decisions, just like all refereeing decisions, even themselves out over the course of the season. And that was in relation to Sheffield United's game against Aston Villa. And that same club found out this week when they took on Tottenham and VAR bailed them out and assisted them in getting a big win that I was correct. So if you haven't watched the episode yet, you should, so that you know what I'm talking about. And to Sheffield United fans, congratulations on beating Tottenham Hotspur this past week. So let's get on to the big topic for today. Now, I was supposed to do this episode 2 weeks ago, but the VAR episode seemed more timely at the time, and then Liverpool won the title last week, which I wasn't expecting, so I had to push it back to this week. But with the Bundesliga finally ending this past weekend, it's not actually a bad time to take a look back at the season as a whole, and another title win for Bayern, which was their record-extending 8th in a row this season. Now, I'll say this, that before this season began, I really thought that Dortmund could win the league title this season. The omens were good for them, as they had a very good attack with Sancho and Royce, and more importantly, Bayern hadn't looked all that great last season and had just about won the title with Niko Kovac. With Sancho having had his breakthrough season last year, I thought that this year he would kick on, the team would have a little bit more cohesion having played together for a year, and well, the stars would align for them and they'd finally dethrone Bayern. One of those things did happen, as this season, if you looked at it as a whole, it was a season more or less of two halves. Bayern pretty much struggled for the first part of the season, as I thought they would. Kovac wasn't very inspiring, Bayern were dropping points like they were hot potatoes, but so were Borussia Dortmund. Defensively, I don't think Dortmund ever got in their stride. Sancho was piling up the numbers in attack, they even got Haaland to add more goals to the team in January, but by and large their defense, particularly the fullbacks, just couldn't seem to defend, which was their primary job. And I know a lot of people rate Hakimi, I know a lot of people were impressed with Guerrero, but while their attacking numbers are really good this season, I think a lot of the goals that they were conceded were very sloppy, and their fullbacks a lot of times were to blame because they were always pushing very high up. The team that did set the pace this season, though surprisingly or unsurprisingly, was Red Bull Leipzig. I'm a big fan of Julian Nagelsmann, by the way, so it was great to see him and his team doing so well. So I know Leipzig aren't well liked by most Bundesliga fans, and I'm not getting into a debate about the ethics of football ownership in Germany or around the world, but the team itself was playing very well in the first part of the season, and I genuinely thought at one point that Bayern's reign was done for this season. But then came the second part. Kovac was fired and replaced by Hansi Flick at Bayern, first on an interim basis, but then turned into a permanent contract because he completely changed the dynamics and the fortunes of the team. Bayern was suddenly unstoppable like they have been for the past 7 seasons. Leipzig and Nagelsmann felt the pressure of being in a title race. Keep in mind that for many of the Leipzig players, it was their first real pressure of challenging for a league title, and they ultimately crumbled, crawling to third place. Dortmund also began charging up after Haaland came and they switched to a back three so they could ease the defensive burden on their fullbacks, who then became wingbacks, and they continued scoring goals for fun throughout the season. Ultimately, though, all those drop points that they had at the start of the season, they came back to haunt them, and when they lost to Bayern towards the end of the season, the title race was over. Maybe a switch early in the season to the back three might have helped. Maybe not buying Hummels back from Bayern and instead using that money for a better centre-half might have been more useful. Maybe getting some defensive discipline into their side would have been better as well. But ultimately, it's fair to say that Dortmund underachieved on their early or their preseason promise for the year, according to me anyway. We'll see how things go next year when they'll have Haaland from the start, banging in goals. Jude Bellingham is all but done, and he's coming to the club. Almost certainly is coming to Dortmund from Birmingham, and they'll probably add a couple more pieces to that defense. So they will have a little bit of continuity there. It's not all good news though, because Hakimi has left for Inter. Götze will be living on a free transfer. I know he's not a regular anymore, but still, he provides a bit of experience to the side. And most importantly, Sancho looks like he might be done as well. But again, that deal is still up in the air depending on the prices quoted and who comes in. Overall, though, I don't think they will have as good a chance next season as they did in this one, because there really were a lot of things that were going for them, particularly at the start of the season. And I think Bayern have now kind of stabilized a little bit from that. So I really don't think Dortmund are going to have it as a good chance as they did this year. And that brings us to the champions again, Bayern Munich. Now, they didn't walk through the title this year like they have in some of the years in the past. They were pushed for a majority of it by Leipzig and then Dortmund, but largely because they weren't very good under Kovac. And once Flick came in, he made them better, more lethal, and they warmed to the title. And right now, they are strong contenders for the Champions League as well. The scary thing is that in the midst of all the turmoil of the past season, if you can call it that, they've also quietly rebuilt that team, and they've integrated quite a few younger players into the team. Gnabry and Coman have effectively replaced Robin and Ribery. Kimmich has established himself in midfield, like we all thought he would. And then there's Goretzka and Davis, who pretty much become vital cogs in the team as well. But that's not all. The old heads have also done very well too. Muller looks like the Muller of old again, like he was 4 years back. Lewandowski was Lewandowski as always, another scoring record, another season. And Boateng also seems to have found a new lease of life, not that he doesn't have to play next to Hummels, I think, instead as Alaba. But they were worthy champions this year. And they're already building for next season with Sane signed for Man City. A couple of youngsters made their first team debuts towards the end of the season, so they'll probably be integrated next year as well. So, to all the Bayern fans who are watching this show, congratulations to all of you on winning the Bundesliga, and wishing you all the best for the other tournaments to come and for next season. But that now brings us to the elephant in the room, the big elephant in the room. As mentioned earlier, this was Bayern's eighth title in a row. This kind of dominance is obviously unprecedented in German football history, but is there any hope of stopping them from the chasing pack? When I looked back on this season, what I realized was that the opportunities for Leipzig and Dortmund were because Bayern had slowed down. Bayern had dropped a level, not because the other two teams were better. And that's kind of worrying. As long as Bayern keep up their level, it's highly unlikely that they will be caught. And now we'll look at both sides of this, and we'll begin by giving props to Bayern. No team can win 8 titles in a row, particularly in Germany, unless they're good. And Bayern are really, really good. There's no doubt about that at all. Keep in mind also that those 8 titles have been won by 5 different managers. You've got Hinches, you've got Guardiola, you've got Ancelotti, Kovac, and Flick. So, despite having these change of managers, the club has managed those transitions pretty well, at least domestically. And that is no surprise, since Bayern are one of the best managed clubs in the world, let alone Germany. And as I said earlier, they've managed the squad transition quite seamlessly as well, and what looked like an aging squad at the start of the season, with Boateng, Muller, Neuer, Martinez, Lewandowski all on the other side of 30, now suddenly looks like a vibrant young team with Coman, Davis, Gnabry, Kimmich, Goretzka all coming to the fore. And let's don't forget they also have Pavard and Hernandez, who are still quite young as well. And what do? They've now gone and added Sane as well for Manchester City. So it doesn't look like they plan on stopping anytime soon, their dominance. And they might also add Havertz, possibly. Not sure, don't know yet, but they might do that. And then that would be pretty much it for this next season, if it happens. I think Bayern are already favourites to win the title. And if they get Havertz, they might very well not be favourites. There'd be certainties at that point. And keep in mind that all of this has been achieved without any private benefactors or any sovereign wealth funds that are backing them. Right? Just really, really good management of the club. So that brings us to the negatives. But before we do that, though, I do want to explain why Bayern are where they are financially. For those of you who may not be aware, see, when you think of Bayern standing in Germany, I think of Manchester United standing globally when they were at their peak, but with a much smaller population base. So essentially, what I mean is that Bayern are pretty much the Man United of Germany, but there is no Liverpool or Chelsea or Arsenal or Manchester City to counter them on a national scale. So what you have really is that, there's this whole stat about 10% of fans or whatever, people, 10% of people around the world being Manchester United fans. Kind of think of that on a smaller scale if you were to say that there's about 30 to 40% of German people being Bayern fans. That's a really big number for a national population, right? And so what really happens is that big brands that want a national exposure in Germany, or German brands, big brands that want a global exposure, they all go to Bayern. They all know that they want that exposure, they have to go to Bayern. And having that clout gives them that commercial dominance easily over all the other clubs. And that allows them to buy talent from other Bundesliga clubs or other clubs to improve their own team. Plus, they can also invest in their academy to find and produce the best young talents in Germany. So essentially, they have a sort of monopoly. I wouldn't like to call it monopoly, but they have like first pick really of all the best German talent, and even in some cases the best international talent that other German clubs will not have. So if you're a top German player, you know that you have to play at Bayern or go abroad if you want to progress in your career and win trophies. There's no other place to do that. And that brings about the lopsidedness of the leagues. I mean, other clubs can't keep up financially with Bayern, so they have to sell their best players to make money, either to Bayern or anywhere else, but they have to do that to stay afloat. And that perpetuates a cycle of lack of competition, and which leads to stagnation of revenue growth, which won't affect Bayern because of the stature that they have in German football, but it doesn't allow other clubs to grow. And so, because other clubs don't grow, so again, there's no competition, and then again, there's stagnation. It keeps that cycle going. And we're already seeing now in recent years that the Bundesliga has become a sort of finishing school for young talents, especially from abroad, to ply their trade at one of the other 17 clubs. And then they'll move on to Bayern or another big club in Europe. We've seen that with Carvajal, we've seen that with Hakimi now, Sane, Kevin De Bruyne, Timo Werner, and it will possibly even happen with Sancho, Havertz, Haaland, and even Jude Bellingham. They'll probably do the same. They'll go to one of those other 17 clubs, they'll play there for a couple of seasons, 2-3 seasons, and if they prove their potential, if they prove their class, then either Bayern will come for them or some other club will come. And while that is obviously beneficial financially to these clubs because they get a lot of money by signing on the cheap and then selling them for big money, what it does is that there's a lack of star power in the league. There's a lack of competitiveness in the league, and it makes it attractive, because nobody's going to watch. Bayern fans will probably watch Bayern win the league, but nobody else is. Neutrals are not going to watch the league if it's so uncompetitive. And what that does is that digital revenues then reduce, and that really makes a lot of money for clubs, even more than attendance revenues, is digital revenues. And obviously, this is not Bayern's fault. If players wish to move on from their current clubs because those clubs lack ambition to win trophies and they obviously prioritize more money over trophies, that's not Bayern's fault. But if German players are not competing at the very top levels, then the national team will suffer for it. And that is where I think the German football authorities, they need to find an answer for, like, how do they make the league more competitive, how do they keep it competitive, because at this point it is losing that competitiveness, and that's not good. We've seen what Juventus' Serie A domination has done to Italian football. They haven't played a good tournament since 2012. The 2012 was the last time they were relevant on the international stage. Since then, look at any other tournaments. Italy have not managed to make the last World Cup, and then even before that, they had like some pretty uneventful exits. Germany would not want that to happen to their national team, so they have got to look at the situation and figure out what they can do to remedy it. Because at this point, I really can't see where the next challenge is coming from. And I just spoke about Dortmund losing players. Leipzig are having the same issue. Timo Werner is left. Most likely Upamecano will leave as well. And then, where does that leave them? So really, really important issue to focus on at this point. And on that note, talking about German authorities, I have to give props to the German football authorities and the staff. Now, as you know, the Bundesliga was the first European league to restart, and they've done a really great job of getting football back and getting to the season without any major setbacks. I mean, really, really well done to everyone involved. Kudos to everyone. It's a fantastic achievement. And it's not exciting for us because without talking points, shows like this wouldn't exist. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we haven't discussed the Bundesliga a lot, because not a lot has happened. People have got on with the games. There have been no real major incidents or controversies. Everything's been great. Possession towards the title for Bayern. Everybody else has got on with it. But, it doesn't really help us. But no doubt, what they've achieved is very tremendous. And I think no matter what, I think that is really, really commendable. And it's no wonder that the other leagues have also taken note of what the Bundesliga has done, and they have copied that for their own restarts, because they have set that model to follow. So really amazing. That's it for today, guys. What did you think about this year's Bundesliga season? Let me know in the comment section. If you're watching on YouTube or TalkShoe or wherever, please let me know what you thought. I would very love to hear from you guys as well. But take care. See you again soon. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to that episode of Late Night Football. We need your help to grow this channel, so if you've been enjoying the show thus far, please do like and subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends, family, colleagues, neighbors, drinking buddies, fellow football fans, and anybody else you know or don't know. We'd really appreciate it. Please also follow us on Twitter and Facebook via the links in the description below and spread the word about us. Take care.